America's most famous performing arts venue is having a moment. Except the seats are empty and the cancellations keep stacking. The Kennedy Center was supposed to be a national living room. Right now it looks like a family reunion where everyone suddenly got busy. And before anybody yells at the screen, this isn't vibes, this is numbers. Here's what changed, like you don't know. Since February 2025, President Trump took control of Kennedy Center leadership, with Richard Grenell installed to run operations. And since the more recent renaming added Trump's name to the building, even more artists and groups have canceled events. December 18, 2025, the Kennedy Center's Trump-aligned board voted to rebrand it to Trump Kennedy Center, with the longer form, the Donald J. Trump and the John F. Kennedy Memorial Center for the Performing Arts. December 19, 2025, new exterior signage with the Donald J. Trump and G was installed on the building. Now, here's the part nobody can spin forever, the ticket data. The Washington Post analyzed ticket availability for the Kennedy Center's three largest venues from September 3 to October 19, 2025. The typical production had 43% of seats unsold, meaning at most 57% were sold or comped. Same window in 2024, 93% sold or comped. And the center could have sold tickets to about 143,000 seats in that period. More than 50,000 stayed empty. That's not a little down. That's a different universe. And spending data referenced by the Post showed less than half as much money was spent on tickets in Sept mid-Oct 2025 compared with the same period in 2024. Here's the joke that writes itself. You can't comp your way into a cultural reset. Free tickets can fill chairs, but they don't rebuild trust. Now zoom out to the season packages, the people who usually keep institutions afloat. A Washington Post report using internal data said subscription revenue by June 1, 2025 was about $2.66 million, plus about $155,000 from a new mix and match option, versus $441 million by the same point the year before. That's a drop of roughly $1.6 million, around 36%, also echoed in Axios coverage. You know what this looks like in biblical terms? Stewardship. Moreover, it is required of stewards that they be found faithful. And Trump is suing Jerome Powell? 1 Corinthians 4:2. Faithfulness isn't just about the message, it's also about the mission, the finances, the trust. No one has released an official master list, but multiple outlets have tracked the wave. Axios recently tallied 11 acts pulling out in the wake of the takeover Arch renaming story. And the Washington Post published an updated rundown of cancellations connected to the name change, naming performers and groups who backed out, including Bela Fleck, Christy Lee, Wayne Tucker, Brentano Cuarte, Hasin Yun Huang, Sonia de los Santos, Doug Veroni. The same Washington Post piece also points back to earlier cancellations tied to the February takeover, like Hamilton and Rhiannon Giddens. And let's not minimize Hamilton. The Post noted that a prior Kennedy Center run of the show sold $26 million in tickets in 2022, meaning cancellations can be a direct hit to future revenue. This is why the Bible keeps warning about division. If a house is divided against itself, that house cannot stand. Mark 3:25. When an institution turns into a battlefield, even people who love the art may stop showing up because they don't want the fight. Now here's the escalation. Washington National Opera announced it's ending its affiliation and operating independently, citing financial and operational strain after leadership changes. Reuters and AP both reported the split as part of broader fallout around the takeover and restructuring. That's not a random touring act. That's a cornerstone relationship. Despot Donnie does not add. There's a count the cost moment here. Which of you desiring to build a tower does not first sit down and count the cost? Luke 14:28. If the model becomes unsustainable, you don't get to pray your way out of basic math. Let's tell it like it is. This isn't one simple cause. It's probably three pressures stacking. When patrons feel the Kennedy Center represents something political, they opt out. The Post quoted staff describing the brand as newly polarizing and tying attendance dips to leadership shift and climate. Leadership says it's common sense programming. Critics say the shakeup in messaging scared off regulars. Either way, audiences aren't buying like they used to. And yes, Broadway has had softness. Yes, tourism factors exist. But the Post comparison shows the Kennedy Center's drop is unusually steep relative to recent years, including years impacted by the pandemic reopening. Truth matters even when it's inconvenient. Speak the truth with his neighbor. Ephesians 4:25. And integrity isn't optional. Better is a poor person who walks in integrity than one who is crooked. Proverbs 28:6. Here are the three questions that decide the next chapter. Do donors follow audiences, or do they replace them? Ticket buyers often become donors. The Post quoted a former Kennedy Center president warning depressed ticket sales can undermine future fundraising. Do cancellations spread to sure things? If more high-demand shows avoid the venue, the recovery gets harder. And thirdly, does the Kennedy Center rebuild as a unifying institution or double down as a statement? The center's original tradition was broad invitation, high culture, popular culture, and everything between, without a party label attached. If you want the North Star for a cultural institution, so then let us pursue what makes for peace and for mutual upbuilding. Romans 14:19. Not peace as in nobody disagrees, but peace as in we still share a table. Here's my take. The Kennedy Center doesn't need propaganda. It needs trust. And trust is slow to build and fast to burn, kind of like a stage set. One bad spark and everybody's suddenly outside. And that's the whole story. Not rumors, numbers. When your seats go from 93% full to 57% and the cancellations pile up, that's not media spin. That's gravity. The Kennedy Center wasn't built to be a trophy. It was built to be a trust, a public stewarded memorial, not a personal brand. And the Trump brand is dragging the Kennedy Center into the ground. Moreover, it is required of stewards that they be found faithful. 1 Corinthians 4:2. So here's the question. Are we watching a temporary backlash or a long-term cultural fracture? If you want more straight documented breakdowns like this, subscribe. Drop a comment. Boycott, mismanagement, or market slump? What's the real driver? And share this with one person who still thinks empty theaters don't matter. Subscribe and like.